Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how much we love exploring new ways to live more intentionally? And today we're tackling a topic that's close to a lot of your hearts, based on all the messages we've gotten. It's urban self-sufficiency, but with a bit of a twist.
Yeah, a healthy twist.
Exactly. We're focusing on how to boost our health and wellness while embracing those self-sufficient practices. And to guide us, we're diving into Chapter 10 of a book that's become a bit of a Bible for the urban homesteader. It's called Urban Independence, a guide to self-sufficiency in city living.
This chapter is really interesting because it kind of flips the script on how we view city life. It's not just about surviving the concrete jungle, but thriving in it.
Right. It's like, how do we cultivate a healthy and fulfilling lifestyle amidst all the hustle and bustle? And you know me, I'm all about those actionable steps.
Oh, the book definitely delivers on that front. One of the first things that caught my eye was this whole concept of urban foraging. It might sound a bit out there at first, but hear me out.
I've got to admit, when I first heard about urban foraging, I pictured people digging through trash cans.
Yeah.
Which is not quite the image of wellness we're going for.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's more about recognizing the abundance of edible plants that are growing all around us. We just need to know where to look.
So instead of grabbing a salad from the grocery store, I could be out there like gathering wild berries in the park.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not berries right in the middle of the city, but there are edible plants popping up in unexpected places along sidewalks and parks, even those little cracks in the pavement.
That's so cool. It's like suddenly seeing your city through a whole new lens, like a treasure hunt for edible goodies.
Exactly. And the book even mentions how this practice of foraging can be a really mindful way to reconnect with nature. We're so often disconnected from where our food comes from.
That makes total sense. But isn't it kind of dangerous? I mean, what if I mistake a poisonous plant for something edible?
That's a valid concern. And the book stresses the importance of proper education. Before you start nibbling on anything you find in the wild, make sure you do your research. Take a class with a local expert. Maybe even join a foraging group.
So it's like anything else. Knowledge is power. And once you have that knowledge, you can open up this whole new world of food possibilities.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop there. The book also talks about edible landscaping, which I'm a huge fan of.
Me too. I've always wanted to try that. But I live in a tiny apartment with just a small balcony. Is that even possible?
Absolutely. You don't need a sprawling backyard to create an edible landscape. It can be done on balconies, rooftops, even fire escapes. Think vertical gardens, compact plant varieties.
So I could have like a little herb garden on my balcony. That would be amazing.
Exactly. And you could even grow some veggies. Herbs are a great place to start. They're pretty low maintenance and there's so much variety.
I'm already picturing myself snipping fresh basil for my pasta dinners.
And imagine the satisfaction of harvesting your own tomatoes or peppers right from your little urban oasis.
Okay, you've convinced me I need to look into this. But even if I manage to create this amazing balcony garden, I'm a bit worried about keeping up with it all. Life gets so busy.
I hear you. The book emphasizes starting small. Don't try to do everything at once. Choose plants that are well suited to your climate and lifestyle. And set up a watering system that takes some of the pressure off.
So even a gardening newbie like me could potentially have a thriving balcony garden. That's encouraging.
Exactly. And the benefits go beyond just fresh produce. It's a way to connect with nature, reduce your environmental impact, and even save some money on groceries.
It's like bringing that farm-to-table concept right into your own home.
Precisely. And you know what's really exciting? Some cities are taking this concept to a whole new level with rooftop farms that are actually supplying local restaurants.
Wow, that's incredible. So we could be seeing more and more locally sourced food coming from right within the city limits.
It's a growing trend, and I think it speaks to this desire for a more sustainable and resilient food system.
It's all about connecting the dots, right, between our health, our communities, and the environment.
Exactly. And speaking of connecting the dots, urban self-sufficiency is about more than just food. It's also about how we consume and interact with all the other stuff in our lives.
That's such an important point, especially in a city where we're constantly bombarded with advertising and the pressure to buy, buy, buy.
It can be really overwhelming. The book dives into this idea of mindful consumption and minimalism as key aspects of urban well-being.
I've been trying to be more mindful about my purchases lately. It's so easy to get caught up in those impulse buys. But then I end up with a bunch of stuff I don't really need.
That's why the book emphasizes the importance of understanding the impact of our choices. Every purchase we make has a ripple effect, not just on our wallets, but on the environment and even on our own well-being.
That reminds me of the example of Bea Johnson, the mother of zero waste, who is featured in the book.
Oh yes, Bea Johnson. She's an inspiration. Her family produces just a mason jar of trash per year. It's incredible.
A mason jar?
Oh.
I can barely fit a day's worth of trash in a mason jar.
It's a pretty radical approach, but it really challenges us to rethink our consumption habits. It's not about being perfect, but about making more conscious choices about what we bring into our lives.
Okay, so maybe I won't be going zero waste anytime soon, but what about minimalism? That feels a bit more attainable.
Minimalism is all about simplifying your life. It's about focusing on what truly adds value and letting go of the rest.
It's about quality over quantity, right? Having fewer things, but making sure those things are meaningful and useful.
Exactly. And the book highlights so many benefits of this approach: reduce stress, financial freedom, more time for experiences, and of course, a lighter environmental footprint.
I have a friend who recently embraced minimalism, and she said it's been life-changing. She feels so much lighter and freer without all that clutter.
And that's a common sentiment among minimalists. It's about reclaiming your space and your time so you can focus on what truly matters.
But isn't there a risk of minimalism becoming just another trendy lifestyle? I mean, people are still buying things, just different things.
That's a valid point. I think the key is intentionality. It's not about replacing one set of possessions with another, but about being mindful about what we allow into our lives.
So it's not about deprivation. It's about making conscious choices that align with our values and our vision for how we want to live.
Exactly. And I think that's a perfect segue into the next aspect of urban well-being, that the book addresses mental health.
Oh, yes. That's such an important topic.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget about our mental well-being when we're caught up in the daily grind of city life.
The book acknowledges that city life can be tough on our mental health. All the noise, the crowds, the constant stimulation, it can take a toll.
I definitely feel that sometimes the city's energy can be exhilarating, but it can also be exhausting. It's like a constant sensory overload.
And that's why the book emphasizes the importance of incorporating mindfulness practices into our daily routine.
Like meditation or yoga.
Exactly. Those are great examples. But even just taking a few minutes to disconnect from technology can make a big difference. Put your phone away, close your laptop, just be present in the moment.
Oh, a digital detox. I need that more often than I care to admit. Sometimes I feel like I'm constantly plugged in.
It's so easy to get sucked into that digital vortex, but taking those breaks is crucial for our mental well-being.
And the book also talks about the importance of social connection, which can be challenging in a city where people can feel isolated even when surrounded by millions of others.
Oh, so true. It's like we're all living in our own little bubble, so how do we break out of that?
Well, the book suggests finding your tribe, whether it's joining a community garden, a book club, a sports team, or even just making an effort to connect with your neighbors.
Those are all great ideas. It's about seeking out those shared experiences that bring people together.
I think that's so important. Even just smiling at someone on the street or striking up a conversation with a barista can make you feel more connected to your community.
It's those little interactions that can make a big difference in how we experience city life.
It's about shifting our mindset from feeling isolated to feeling like we're part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that sense of belonging is so crucial for our mental and emotional well-being.
And speaking of well-being, we can't forget about the physical side of things. The book also talks about staying active in the city, which can be tricky when you don't have a big backyard or easy access to nature.
That's true. But the book encourages us to think outside the gym and see the city as our fitness playground.
I've definitely noticed more and more people working out in parks, using benches for step-ups, even jogging up and down stairs.
Yeah.
It's like the whole city's becoming a fitness center.
And it's not just about structured workouts, it's about finding opportunities for movement throughout the day. Taking the stairs instead of the elevator, walking or biking to work, even just standing up and stretching every hour.
Those are great tips. I've been trying to walk more lately, and it's amazing how much I've discovered about my neighborhood just by exploring it on foot.
It's like a mini adventure every day.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's so much more enjoyable than being stuck in traffic.
And you know what's interesting? The book also talks about how urban design can influence our activity levels. Cities that are designed with walkability in mind make it so much easier to incorporate movement into our daily lives.
That makes sense. I've definitely noticed that when I'm in a neighborhood with wide sidewalks, plenty of crosswalks, and interesting things to see along the way, I'm way more likely to walk than to hop in a car or call a ride.
Exactly. It's about creating those environments that encourage and support healthy habits.
It's like the city itself becomes a partner in our well-being journey.
I love that analogy. And I think it speaks to this holistic approach to urban well-being. It's not just about individual choices, but about creating a city that supports and nurtures our health and happiness in every way.
That's a powerful vision. And it makes me so excited about the possibilities of what urban living can be.
Me too. I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible when we start to think about cities as not just places we live, but places where we can truly thrive.
It's about creating a culture of well-being in the heart of the urban jungle.
Exactly. And I think this conversation has given us a lot to think about and a lot to be hopeful for.
I completely agree. Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. From foraging for wild edibles to rethinking our relationship with stuff to finding pockets of peace amidst the city's chaos, it's clear that urban self-sufficiency is about so much more than just survival.
It's about creating a life that's both fulfilling and sustainable.
It's about taking ownership of our well-being and shaping the city into a place that supports our health and happiness.
And that's a journey that I think we can all be a part of.
Absolutely. So if you're feeling inspired to dive deeper into this topic, we highly recommend checking out Chapter 10 of Urban Independence. It's full of practical tips, inspiring stories, and a whole lot of food for thought.
And in the meantime, why not start with one small step? Maybe plant a herb on your windowsill, declutter a drawer, or take a walk in your neighborhood and really observe the abundance of nature that's all around you.
Every little action counts. Remember, urban well-being is a journey, not a destination. So let's keep exploring, keep learning, and keep striving to create a city that truly nourishes our minds, bodies, and spirits.
Cheers to that. It's funny you should say that because the book actually touches on that. It talks about how urban design can really influence our activity levels. I mean, think about it. Cities that are built for walking make it so much easier to move around and get those steps in.
Oh, totally. I've noticed that myself. When I'm in a neighborhood with nice wide sidewalks and lots of crosswalks and, interesting things to look at, I'm way more likely to walk than to even think about calling a ride.
Exactly, right.
That
It's
much.
about creating environments that encourage and support those healthy habits, almost like the city itself becomes a partner in our wellness journey.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a cool way to think about it. So we've talked about food and stuff and movement. What about stress? I mean, city life can be pretty stressful. How does the book address that whole aspect of urban well-being?
That's a really good question. And it's something that the book definitely acknowledges. I mean, city life can be a lot to handle. It's go, go, go all the time, and it's so easy to get caught up in that whirlwind.
Totally. I mean, I love the energy of the city, but sometimes I just need to hit the pause button, you know?
Absolutely. And the book actually talks about some strategies for dealing with that urban stress. One of the things that emphasizes is the importance of finding moments of peace and quiet amidst all the craziness.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we need to create those little pockets of calm, those little oases within the city where we can just de-stress and recharge.
Exactly. Whether it's a quiet corner in a park, a cozy nook in your apartment, or even just taking a few deep breaths before a big meeting, those little moments of stillness can make a world of difference.
I've been trying to be more mindful lately, and it really does help. Even just 5 minutes of meditation in the morning can set me up for a much calmer day.
The book also talks of the importance of nature as a stress reliever. And, even small doses of nature can have a positive impact on our mental and physical well-being.
I totally agree. I always feel so much more relaxed after spending some time in a park, even if it's just a small one surrounded by buildings.
And some cities are actually starting to incorporate more green spaces into their urban design. They're realizing how important nature is for residents' health and well-being.
Oh yeah, I've seen that rooftop gardens, community gardens, even parks built on old, elevated train tracks.
Yeah.
It's amazing to see how creative cities are getting with bringing nature into the urban landscape.
And it's not just about aesthetics. Those green spaces provide so many benefits. Cleaner air noise reduction, a place for people to connect with nature and with each other.
It's like they're weaving well-being into the fabric of the city.
Exactly. And, this whole conversation about urban well-being brings up a really interesting question. How do we create cities that not only support our physical and mental health, but also foster a sense of community and belonging?
That's such a good question. Because at the end of the day, we're social creatures. We need those connections to thrive.
And the book actually dives into some really cool ideas about how to build stronger communities within the city.
Oh, I'm all ears. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially in a city as big and busy as ours.
Well, one of the things the book highlights is the importance of shared spaces, places where people can come together, interact, and build relationships.
Like community gardens. I know those have become really popular in recent years.
Exactly. Community gardens are a great example. They give people a space to grow food, learn new skills, connect with their neighbors. It's a win-win-win all around.
I love that. It's like bringing a little bit of that small town community spirit into the heart of the city.
And it's not just about community gardens. The book also talks about things like co-working spaces, maker spaces, even libraries as important community hubs.
That's so true. I've been working from a co-working space a few days a week, and it's amazing how much more connected I feel to the people around me just by being in that shared space.
It's about creating those opportunities for those serendipitous encounters, for people from different backgrounds and walks of life to come together and interact.
And who knows what can happen from those interactions? New ideas, collaborations, even friendships. It's like the city becomes this living, breathing network of connections.
Exactly. And that's really what urban well-being is all about, finding ways to thrive as individuals within a supportive and interconnected community.
It's amazing how these seemingly small things like saying hi to your neighbor or joining a community garden can actually make a difference in the overall well-being of a city.
Yeah, it's like all those individual actions add up to create a more connected and vibrant community.
Right. It's like we're all part of this big web of interconnectedness.
And that web actually extends beyond just our immediate communities. It connects us to the larger systems and structures that shape our urban lives. The book actually talks about this idea of urban resilience, building cities that can withstand challenges and even thrive in the face of adversity.
Resilience. That's a word we hear a lot these days, but what does it actually mean in the context of a city?
Well, it's about having those systems in place that can help us weather the storms, whether it's a natural disaster, an economic downturn, or even something like a pandemic.
So it's not just about bouncing back, but about being prepared and adaptable, right?
Exactly. And the book highlights several key elements of urban resilience. Things like robust infrastructure, reliable transportation, access to essential resources like food and water.
Those are the things we often take for granted until something goes wrong.
Right. And it's not just about the physical infrastructure either. The book also talks about the importance of social capital, those networks of support and trust that can help a community come together during tough times.
It's like that old saying, it takes a village.
Exactly. And building that village spirit in a city can be challenging. But the book offers some really interesting ideas, things like creating more collaborative spaces, fostering community leadership, and even just encouraging people to get to know their neighbors.
I love that. It's about building those connections at the grassroots level.
And resilience isn't just about responding to crises, it's also about mitigating those risks in the first place, thinking about things like sustainable building practices, green infrastructure, renewable energy.
So it's about taking a proactive approach to create a healthier and more sustainable city.
Exactly. And that leads us to another key theme that the book explores: sustainable businesses.
Oh, that's something I'm super passionate about. I love supporting businesses that are making a positive impact.
Me too. And the book really emphasizes how businesses can be a force for good in the urban ecosystem.
It's about aligning our values with our spending habits, right? Choosing to support companies that are committed to sustainability and ethical practices.
Exactly. And the book is full of inspiring examples of businesses that are leading the way in this area. From local cafes sourcing their ingredients from nearby farms to tech companies powering their offices with renewable energy.
It's amazing to see how businesses are stepping up and recognizing that they have a role to play in creating a better future.
And it's not just about big companies either. Small businesses can have a huge impact too by reducing waste, conserving energy, supporting local suppliers.
It's like this ripple effect, right? Every sustainable choice we make, whether it's as individuals or as businesses, contributes to a larger movement.
Exactly. And speaking of ripple effects, the book also talks about the importance of local food systems as a key element of urban resilience and well-being.
That makes so much sense. The more we can shorten those supply chains and bring food production closer to home, the more resilient and sustainable our cities will become.
The book talks about supporting farmers markets, joining CSAs, and even growing our own food in urban gardens.
It's like we've come full circle back to that idea of urban foraging and edible landscaping. We're all connected.
We really are. And you know what I find so inspiring about all of this? Is that it gives us a roadmap for creating a future where cities aren't just places we live, but places where we can truly thrive physically, mentally, and socially.
It's a powerful vision. And I think this deep dive has really highlighted that urban well-being isn't just about individual actions. It's about creating a culture of sustainability and resilience that touches every part of city life.
Absolutely. And for our listeners out there, I hope this deep dive has given you some new ideas and inspired you to think about how you can contribute to a healthier, more sustainable, and more resilient city.
Remember, even small actions can make a difference, whether it's planting a herb on your windowsill, supporting a local business, or just striking up a conversation with your neighbor. Every step we take towards urban well-being is a step towards a brighter future for us all.
So true.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from rethinking our consumption habits to finding peace amidst the chaos to building stronger communities. It's clear that urban well-being is a multifaceted and ever-evolving journey.
It really is. And there's always more to learn and explore.
If you're feeling inspired to dive deeper, we highly recommend checking out Chapter 10 of Urban Independence, a guide to self-sufficiency in city living. It's packed with practical tips, insightful stories, and a whole lot of inspiration.
And in the meantime, keep experimenting, keep questioning, and keep those conversations going, because together we can create cities that nourish our minds, bodies, and souls.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll catch you next time.